Thanks for making it. I really appreciate it. Joshua before me, that's his 7th conference. For me, this is like my 9th or 10th conference this year. A bunch of us have just gone bananas, so I really appreciate it. And the other thing, too, is I represent a large team. And, you know, I got multiple authors here, and there are so many other people, students, military folks that have been behind this project, and you'll see the full list at the end. Just to make sure a lot of people get a lot of credit for it. I'll start with a disclaimer, because this is actually representing, for those of you that have paid taxes, you have paid for this. So I thank you all for your contribution. Some motivation, what is Jack Voltaic? What does this have to do with critical infrastructure? And quite a few resources. And if you stay to the end, there's free stuff. And I actually have 4 things that I want to give away so I don't have to keep carrying them around. You'll make my life easier. So disclaimer, I'm not a representative of the Army Cyber Institute at West Point. I've actually, one of the pleasures of this project is I've had multiple trips to West Point. If you've never been there, it's amazing. I didn't put the picture in. You walk into the mess hall and you think Harry Potter. It looked like that. I was wondering if there was inspiration. I am a recipient of a grant from the Army Cyber Institute, which was federally funded, and the full disclaimer and attribution is at the end. So what starts off is this list. I wrote this out a while ago. I've actually been tracking this stuff. My news feed, various articles, there's more out there about attacks on critical infrastructure with reference to cybersecurity and some other things. And the list just keeps going and going and going. It's not exhaustive. It's actually part of the slide, so you can click on all this. And every now and then when I do get an update, I do post this in there. And this list goes on and on and on. And I think many of us are really sick of it. So you might be wondering, who am I, exactly what I'm doing? I'm leading up to it. I want you to see why I'm here today. So the Army asked some questions some time ago. There are civilian, non-military, private resources, deployment. It goes like this. Many years ago, the Army asked the question, if we need to deploy troops, if we need to deploy resources, if we need to handle refugees, gee, see where this is going? What if we're delayed? I mean, what if we're just destroyed? How do we actually get stuff out to the world? The piece of the puzzle I wasn't aware of, I always assumed, well, the military just does stuff. No, we leverage civilian resources and government resources outside the military. If you threaten a school, post somewhere about a school shooting, you don't need to actually stop the military, you just need to slow it. And then there's other things too, hurricanes, natural disasters, strikes. And the military started getting nervous about this. They said, are we prepared for cybersecurity attacks? Are we prepared for natural disasters? Are we prepared for physical things that may have nothing to do with the physical environment? It could be workers, it could be delays that have just software errors and so forth. And what if they all converge? So as part of it, what I was thinking about doing is get through the presentation. There's a lot of material. If we have a little bit of time, I do actually have it queued up here. It's sort of linked in here. I'll play a little bit of it to give you an idea. We were testing the audio just before.
Amidst a scorching heat wave, a major city falls victim to devastating cyber attacks, critical infrastructure and emergency services. As the city plunges into darkness, helpless against the heat, we follow the intertwined lives of its citizens, emergency services, and government officials as the city succumbs to chaos and tragedy. The heat wave was coming.
In other news this evening, it's supposed to be the hottest week in 50 years.
For a week, meteorologists had tracked the sky-high temperatures across the city. In the run-up to the heat, small glitches in the city's energy systems started to show themselves, but few took notice. A cyber attack on the local power grid caused next coordinated wave targeted the hospitals. The HVAC systems failed and generators couldn't keep up. In a final blow came a ransomware attack that locked the few functioning emergency services. The heat wave continued. More people died. The city began to collapse.
Fairly grim. I do realize that there are more videos I'd like to show, but you have access to all of this. The Army Cyber Institute is very nervous about this. The Army has actually included this in quite a bit of stuff, and I'll show you a bit more as it comes on. So the whole project is called Jack Voltaic. It started as a war game, series of tabletop exercises, and there have been multiple versions. Some of it got slowed down because of the lockdown, and they had wanted to do more testing. They wanted to do more analysis, but they actually managed to get quite a bit done at certain cities, Charlotte, Atlanta, and others. All the material is available online through the various fact sheets and so forth. And in the end, the Army Cyber Institute said, hey, look, we need to worry about this, but we're a small organization at West Point. We're not connected to U.S. Cyber Command. It's not clear if Cyber Command is going to be involved in this. There's CISA, Critical Infrastructure Security Agency, DHS, and so forth. We should be thinking about this. And they thought the project was done. There's a lot of material that's out there, and you might say, okay, do I need to know this? Am I aware of this? Was I aware of this? Boil it down. What happened at these sessions, imagine, I met the original designer of the war game, Steve Witham, a really brilliant person. He's still employed, he's still in the military. He's at Fort Drum and doing several things. And one of the things he said to me was, when people were showing up for the exercise of the war game, he built out this really intricate, fascinating game. People showed up and they started trading business cards. Say, wait, you work at the Power Authority? Oh, hi, Fred. I didn't know you. It's like, I'm Jim over in, government. And like, oh, and there's Sally over at Power, at, the dams. And so people started trading business cards, and the military folks were going, wait a minute. You don't even know who each other is? So there was a phrase, I wrote it down because sometimes I stumble through it. If you need to know who you need to know, when you need to know, you've already lost. And the project stopped, and they said, look, we have to deal with this. Small organization, we're not able to run these exercises for every single city across the United States. Someone in Congress said, here's $4 million more. So they said, all right, we're going to do one more round of this. Because they're a research organization and not a tabletop exercise or war game organization, they're not adjudicators. They can do it, but they don't have the resources to run around all the different cities, the hospitals, and whatnot. They said, all right, let's involve some academic partners, see what they could do with this. Take all the results that we had done, take the lessons, and say, go nuts. So one of the organizations, we didn't create the videos. I think that was Stanford. So a number of the organizations said, let's create film to try to get the point across. And so I've been working with several of these universities. So where am I? I'm the director of RIT School of Interactive Games and Media. My area is game design. And in fact, those of you who are Rochester-based, and by the way, I'm originally from Syracuse. I have two other classmates. Anyone go to Jamesville DeWitt from Syracuse? Yeah, I graduated from JD. I have two classmates from my year that are also faculty at RIT. So what happens if you take all that stuff I just showed you and gamify it? Not war game, not tabletop exercise, but game. So Joshua, the talk just before this, whoever organized this, thank you. You set me up. Gamification. I really appreciate it, those of you that were here. So what if you apply this with games? Anybody play Backdoors and Breaches? The card game? Yeah, I've met the team, Black Hills. They know who I am, so I'm connected to them. They're really phenomenal. What if you have game designers think about critical infrastructure? what if you take these ideas of game-based learning, gamification, serious games, put the lens of game design, and then contain all this? What happens? It was an experiment. By the way, now the intro. Why me? So I'm not just the director of the School of Interactive Games and Media. I'm also a civil engineer. I'm one of the few civil engineer game designers out there. How this actually came to be is a long story. So I'm very proud of the program we have at RIT. We just hit number 3 in US News and World for games and simulation. Ha-ha, we beat MIT. Good. Go RIT. And, technically Syracuse. So the long story about who I am, how I got here. I love telling people the story. If we hang out a little bit, I'll tell you the sort of long, winding path from Syracuse to Cornell to, RIT. So I'm very interested in critical infrastructure. I love talking to civil engineers. I'm fascinated by security, and I've actually done some other stuff besides this. And so they said, Dave, you've made the sell, let's go for it. So they asked me and my team, we want it to be easy to install, make it easy to play. People who are in towns that are doing exercises, just getting their attention, they're busy. In fact, those of you who are security workers, I'm looking at, everybody is just swamped. We're all swamped. It's got to be fast. Well, if it's fast, it means it has to abstract things down and be relatively easy. So, okay, that sort of connects. Can we have multiple players as if you were at a tabletop exercise sitting around? Those of you who've done a lot of war game stuff, BogSat. I was talking to someone at DEF CON about that. Said, oh, that's the term? A bunch of guys sitting around the table. It's gendered, but yeah, can we get people engaged? Can they play it again? Can they customize it? And can you get people to the point where they go from I don't know what I don't know to I know that I don't know? And say, I better get information, which means they're turning to you or the government resources. Can we get people inspired to say, this is an issue, and not assume, I'm scared, cybersecurity, I just don't want to deal with it. As a side note, I have a former student of mine from Cornell. He was doing the upgrades for one of the counties in New York, and he shared New York State's minimum specs. He said, Dave, every organization I work with asked, what is the least we can do to hit min spec? The funding just isn't there. It's like, how do we inspire people, taxpayers, to say, this is worth investing in? So for those that are war game designers, the formal term would be a self-adjudicating tabletop exercise or war game that handles critical infrastructure resilience against the convergence of attacks. That is actually the formal way to say this in war games. And because I'm caffeinated and my brain sort of works like this, there is a war game conference out there that I went to for the first time. It's called Connections. So those of you who use your favorite browser, Connections, war game, and they have every presentation, all the unclassified posted. You have to dig around the website. And they actually have covered cybersecurity from a war game perspective for a number of years. This year, it was about boats and planes. I'll let you interpret as you will why they're interested in boats and planes. That was the theme this year. Anyway, so, it's funny. I should actually hit slideshow. Sorry about that. I should do that. There we go. So resilience games. So over the years, I'd actually spent some time in Rome, New York at the Air Force Research Lab, the power of being from upstate and central New York and western New York. And that was my first introduction to war games in a formal sense. And I used to have my parents, friends, colleagues, my students say, wait, you're doing war games? And, I know one joke. And it comes out of civil engineering. What's the difference between a civil engineer and a mechanical engineer? So mechanical engineers design weapons, civil engineers design targets. I got in trouble for that joke, by the way. This almost got, anyone see The Chair on Netflix? And apparently someone almost did a video of this. All right, whatever. That's the one joke I know. So what I realize is when I tell people I'm doing war games, is a town, I'd spent time in Buffalo. I went to UB for 12 years. Elma, New York. Is Elma going to hire mercenaries that are going to go fight Russian or Chinese hackers? They could, Could a hospital hire mercenaries that go on the attack? Red teaming, blue teaming? No, this is all, the red team is coming from somewhere, it's blue teaming. So I realized we're making games that look like war games, but they're not war games. So I said, it's about community resilience, disaster resilience, infrastructure resilience. Why don't I take that word resilience and put that in front of the word game? I'm not the only one who's ever said this term. Resilience games, it tends to mean more personal resilience from the world of serious games, mental health resilience, but a few people have started using this to explain what we're doing. And if you saw me over in the corner, like, it's like there's a paper that's due, like now, and we're sitting there like squabbling, like how to get through the final edits, and we make the case for the term resilience gaming, that we're thinking about ways we can get communities to deal with attacks. Not necessarily go on the attack, though technically you could if you want a war game. And you know, the decision makers, so I'll use the decision makers, stakeholders. The reality is so we have the Gannett power plant. It's not like there's one person that's there sitting with a button that can turn on and off. So, but from an abstract level, we're trying to figure out how do we get the communities, and I actually met a rep from Gannett at the Monroe Emergency Ops Center down East River, Scottsville Road. So I had a chance to, not East River, it's Scottsville Road. I had a chance to go there and talk with some people about like how things work, and you see the different representatives. So anyway, so what we did. As game designers, we asked the question, what's popular? What's a nice platform? What works for people? What might attract people? What can be quick? Digital card games have kind of been around for a while, and I don't know if you have any Balatro players out there. Magic the Gathering, so you may see me say MTG in the slides, there it is. Backdoors and breaches. The nice thing about digital cards is a lot of age groups can use it. It doesn't have to just be online. They can be physical, and that's kind of the, let's see if I got it here. Here they are. I realize that, you know, I'm up here and it's a little hard to see. This is an actual card game. You can print these things, and I will be giving away 4 of these. So people are like, wait, he's giving them away? Yeah, and the reality is you can pay for printing them out, or you can just go on GitHub and, you know, just hit print on cardstock and get it for free. So a lot of people like card games. Magic the Gathering, Backdoors and Breaches is known in the field. There are others. When I was at Serious Play, I had a chance to talk to another company. It's common. It's easy to edit. You can go analog, as I said. And then what we also did for the design, we got introduced, bear in mind, we're game designers that were introduced to the field of security. They kind of, the ACI and others I've worked with over the years they like this. They say, Dave, you know enough to be dangerous. You sort of live between the security specialist and, I'll use the term, normies. I saw the idea that you can sort of, you're not good enough to be a security specialist, but you can learn, you can figure out how to communicate a concept to someone who doesn't know it at all. We sort of live in that world of instructional design. One of my old papers from long ago is about game design and instructional design. And, you know, I actually uploaded some of this. Oh, by the way, civil engineer, anyone from Oswego? That's the dam I actually worked on, those pictures that I showed. And this is where the rocks at the bottom where I tripped and almost broke my shin. I actually helped on that project. There we go. It's this one. CIS's website. So we took a look at this. I ended up talking to someone with MITRE who actually was the person who helped CISA figure this out and identify sectors and their relationships and so forth. And we said, all right, we need a reference point. This isn't the only reference point. Europe defines critical infrastructure very differently. In fact, I'm taking a trip to Valencia, Spain, the week after the coming week as part of a panel where they're interested in what we can do in terms of a European version of this. So I'm really excited. This is starting to catch on. So anyway, so we looked at this and said, oh, we do games, role-playing, model UN. What if you had a city where someone's chemical, someone's commercial, someone's communications, manufacturing, dams? We do have a dam here. Letchworth. It's a dry dam. So it's actually relevant for Rochester. I did actually talk to somebody at the Emergency Operations Center. I was scaring my students, said someone could blow the dam could be breached, and this wall of water is going to come rushing down Rochester. And someone said, yeah, Dave, we actually gamed this out, and it's like about 2 or 3 inches, but it's still bad. So I did sort of ham it up a little bit. But yeah, there's 16 sectors here. This could be a player for each of these. Oh, it's a multiplayer game. And a chance to say, okay, and not everybody, you don't need every sector for every game. Not all towns have this. And it may not even be, necessary. People might say, hey, look, I'm just curious what it might be like playing one of these things. And as a side note to that, when I was talking with the Army Cyber Institute, they said, look, where's hospitality? Tourism. Certain things are left out of this. When I was on a research trip in Houston, looking sort of an earlier version of this on another research project, I was looking for a barbecue restaurant. I was missing dinosaur barbecue, and I thought, oh, I'm in Texas. And I found a restaurant, and at the back page of their menu, they said, we will cater your disaster. It's the refinery area. So the back page is, if you have a refinery disaster, things are blowing up, flames are going everywhere, and they will be there within minutes or maybe an hour with food trucks. All set to go. They will cater your disaster. I just had a conversation yesterday with an emergency responder researcher. Said, Dave, you want to measure a community's resilience? Look at their hospitality. Someone has to feed the workers. Someone has to feed the responders. Someone has to feed the people who are there. So we use CISA. It's a reference point, not the reference point. But I want people to realize what's out there. So we said, all right, this is kind of cool. That's like, I can understand this as a role-playing game, Model UN. And then they asked ACI, Army Cyber Institute, asked us for one thing. Being who we are, have anyone ever sit down and try to make a game jam? And yeah, do you find that, like, if you're with a team, sometimes it's hard to get people to agree on the same thing? Just think about arguments at work, do this, this, or this. So games, people get very passionate. We got to the point we couldn't agree. So instead of doing one thing, we did a few. And so the Army asked for one thing, and we've given them several. At least I figure like we've used your tax dollars, efficiently. So we've got 3 core games, Sector Down, the digital framework, which is the Model UN role-playing game. When I was at DEF CON, I realized I had seconds to explain all of this. In fact, the folks that are out there, some of you are from the vendors here, it's exhausting. I had 16 hours of this. At the end of the 16 hours, I thought I was going to punch somebody. I don't know how the vendors do this. This is not my life. I'm not used to this. So I came up with critical infrastructure tabletop, the LAN party. And that's actually right. It's an hour-long multiplayer game. It's LAN. You have to be in the same room as if you're at Emergency Operations Center or Security Operations Center. We have the physical card game, which has a digital version of it as well, access denied. So cybersecurity, the card game. And then as part of the project, I had other funding. Justin Pelletier, who's the keynote speaker tomorrow morning, he's the PI, the principal investigator of HackCore. So he's my research partner. So it was just fun that it's like, oh, both of us are at the conference. Cybersecurity meets Candy Crush. And those of you who are familiar with RIT and the Magic Center, we are going to publish that on the various Play and App stores. It's very small. It's a limited game. We built this thing, built a full-on mobile game for about $50K, which is like pennies. You're not supposed to do that. It's just, so we're in the midst of saying, look, we think we have a game that could be played by anyone from 5 to 95. And instead of playing Candy Crush and other games, and the other games, I mean, this is my life as director of interactive games and media. We want people to play games. They play games. My students get hired. Everybody's happy. But maybe you could play a game that involves concepts. In fact, those of us that design the training that we all have to take or have to do the training, I met the folks from Stanford. When I do RIT speed, training, I just speed run through it. It's like, I figure I'm doing this. I'm like, all right, I know this one, I know this one. How fast can I go through it? Stanford figured it out, and they make all the faculty and staff there sit there for a minute for each slide. You can't just speed run through it. Imagine if you had people wanting to do security training all the time. In fact, Joshua had the talk before, leaderboards and so forth. So I thought one of the ways we can build critical infrastructure resilience in the country is get everybody informed and they want to be informed through games. So everything is public, open source, and free. So I've got the links all down here. And to give you an idea, get rid of the dam. This is all out there. Let's see, I can get rid of this one. I'll show you the MITRE in a bit. I'll show you that in I'm doing this all through Google. It's a mess. I apologize. By the way, that's where the cybersecurity incidents are. I got to clean this up. Typical academic. I have a lot of things all going on. And one of the things is, we don't just have the games. Sector down the game, access denied the game, can also be edited. Because they are cards, the cards themselves, it's a CSV file. It's Excel. So you can essentially make your own games if you want to tweak them. I did want to throw a thank you into MITRE. I wanted to pull this up. I've talked to MITRE. I know Peter from Defend. I haven't met the attack team yet. And when I look at the attack framework, debugger evasion, could you think of a brief game where you might evade something? Or browser information discovery. Can I think of a silly game that might be that? So what I've told MITRE is, hey, MITRE, you didn't just come up with a framework to help specialists. You gave me a design board for game mechanics. We haven't written the paper yet, and we're finding this has been hilarious. It's actually a lot of fun sitting down with this and trying to think of little games where you could be inspired by this. In fact, many security educators, they use metaphors. They're using, like for those of you that are training your employees, you say, okay, here's what phishing is, imagine this. The moment you say imagine this, you're basically designing a game. It's really been stunning. If anything, I wish I had more time for this. It's been frustrating. You know, the way academic research is, you do this, you kind of move on. So it's just been fun. I have presented this at Natural Hazards. I call it the other security conference you don't know about. Imagine everything that cybersecurity could influence without the cybersecurity. They actually rejected my pitch this year because it was sort of depressing. So I'm going to try it again next year. Here's an example of some of the artwork, Diego. One of the nice things, those of you who are connected to artists, designers, and whatnot, that's why I did want to show you. Diego is amazing. This is all hand-drawn. There is no AI in here. Because this is public and available, someone's going to take the art and throw it into a large language model. And I can get to Diego's contact. So the question we had asked was a side project. How do you communicate a security concept through imagery? And it's been pretty amazing. You can access all his stuff through the website. It's a lot of fun. And I think it's kind of fun, too, to try to figure out what each of these are. I mean, the phishing one's obvious. By the way, the one up here, that was my Easter egg. Because we talk about physical disasters, it's a fatberg. Anyone remember the fatberg incident in London? The whole sewer system got clogged. So we have a fatberg in Jack Voltaic. It's just, I don't know if you'll ever get that card, but it's there because I wanted it. So I grabbed a whole bunch of images here, and you can see some of the things that go on. Earthquakes, disk wipe, unnecessary features. I love the team. In fact, by the way, we got so entranced by this character he kept using over and over again. I call him Volty. You know where I got that from? Clippy. I almost got vetoed by the team. So this is what Sector Down looks like. LAN party. You can edit your deck. We've got the rules. The rules are a little janky, as my students call it. Because it's networked. The odd thing is, to get it installed and running on your network itself is a security issue because of firewalls. And if the Army wanted it, on site. They wanted it land, so we did that. And in the end, maybe we would have been better if we just did it as a straight network game. You get contracted to do something, you do it. And this gives you an idea what it looks like. We've got Volti there. I still want to make the plushies. We've had them all set to go. It takes a little bit of time to go through this. And you imagine that here you are. It's like, I'm water, someone's power, someone might be dams, someone might be government. And then for each group of critical infrastructure players, here I am as Dave, you've got a red team player, someone who now has red cards, and they're saying, all right, what kind of attack can I place on water? What kind of attack can I place on government? What kind of attack can I place here? So there's a phase of, all right, red is attacking, and blue, because you're local, you're in the same room, like staring at your computer. It's like, wait, crap, something just happened. Hey, Jill, what do I do with this? Pat, wait, do you have this resource? And what we did, and this came from, we've been consulting with the former head of war game design from the Army War College. He moved on to Army Futures Command, which itself has been renamed. And he said he was a big-time game player. It's like, most of my life, I was really, as department chair, I'm answering email, which is, again, a story unto itself. He said, Dave, let me tell you about European styles. Meeples, where have workers as your key resource. In the end, human beings are going to do something. Even if you have AI there, somebody's got to watch the AI. So let's trade workers as a kind of resource mechanic in the game. So if something goes wrong, let's trade some people over there to see if they can solve the problem. It's like, oh, wait, some network just went down. Okay, let's move some resources there. So we do this as a rough mechanic of waves as I balance resources from people, workers, because it turns out Meeple is now trademarked. So workers, as we call them, we get points. And like the original Jack Voltaic, how do we communicate such that we know what each person is doing? To give an idea, this is the red view. There's, like all games, there's this sort of learning phase, which can get a little frustrating, which is you look at this and go, all right, I have my cards, and you take a look at, like, power plant, transmission lines, utility. Where we got that is the idea, like, what am I doing? How do I transfer my material or the utility, like in this case, it's power, and then how does it get accessed? So we sort of broke up each bit of critical infrastructure into 3 chunks, and we actually got that from CISA's own topology and hierarchy. So, and it's kind of fun too. I have a whole spreadsheet out there where you can see this stuff all laid out. And then, we have a turn phase. So red's going, blue's going. The physical attacks are in there as well. So we have the natural events. So there are actually several phases that are happening. We keep track of the workers, and we keep track of the history. What did you do? So there's a little bit to keep track of. As much as we've actually done through the tutorial, one of the bits of the contract, we have to produce a physical tutorial. Realize we're giving video tutorials. I think the video tutorials probably be a little bit faster. People usually sit down just like, show me how to play this. This gives another view of what it looks like. And, you can drag cards back and forth. You can share them and so forth. Keep track of what's going on. We have the points that are we keep track of. And in the end, so the red player doesn't ever win or lose. It's just how much damage can you do. Those of you, I don't know how many people are good red teamers here. Anybody like red teaming more than blue teaming in your organization? Yeah, so a few red teamers. If you've never had a chance to do it, all right, how do I mess with people? And in the end, the blue team has to go, all right, I had power, I had water, I had government. Say we just had 3 players. Each player is trying to keep track of how many workers can they keep, because they want to keep afloat and they want their budget to balance. But at the same time, if I don't give resources to the rest of the infrastructure, the rest of the network, we're all going down, which was ultimately now back to the point of Jack Voltaic. Am I actually aware of what someone does? Am I communicating what they're doing? Am I maintaining my resources to keep my thing afloat? But am I also keeping the network up so that everybody wins? And that was the core lesson. So how do you take the concept of critical infrastructure and embed it in a game? And so it gives another idea what it looks like from the blue phase. And you can see blue and red together. When the Army asked for us to make this editable, so you can do through the CSV file, or we have a GUI editor, you can actually go through, swap out the artwork, and customize everything. The complaint I've gotten on this so far is it's time consuming. Even if you edit the CSV file directly, it takes time to figure out what all these cards are. I think what's going to happen is as people play it, they'll probably stick with the cards that we've already made for sector down or access denied, and maybe tweak a few cards or add a few cards or remove a few cards until they get used to it. It takes time to do this, but it is all changeable. So behind the scenes, when I was at DEF CON, oh, by the way, I'll show you access denied, what it looks like in terms of the analog version. When I was at DEF CON, and I made sure I got permission for the photo. One of the things that came up very often was, hey, I represent a hospital. I'm my own set of critical infrastructure. Could I tweak all of this and say, yes, we've ultimately created a digital card game engine that has red, blue, white phases. So it's very editable. If I could do this again, and this is one of the things I'm hoping to find, is could we adjust for the sectors themselves? We wired it into CISA. We don't have to do that. We could customize that. So in other words, build the game engine that I think we could have. So imagine, those of you who are familiar with Unity or Unreal, Godot, other game engines out there. So imagine cybersecurity games, the game engine. We proved we can do it. We're ready to now build that next thing. But you know, like all things, it takes funding. The good news is this is all out there. Actually, I've got the time. I could actually show this. I wasn't sure how talkative I would get. This is actually a lot of fun. We're so close. So the RT Magic Center, if those aren't familiar with Magic, RT. They're publishing games as well. So we think we're the first project at RT that's running through the ESL GCI, the Global Cybersecurity Institute. So it's a joint project. And it's also looped in with the Critical Infrastructure Project. So we're really excited about it. And my dream has been to just go through and gamify the entire MITRE framework. Then we go PvP. You've got the Defend framework. And now they have a DApp for crypto. So, and then, you know, we're talking to someone with NIST, which is something else. But we look at this and say, thank you, MITRE. You have given us all these game mechanics. And when I've talked to MITRE about it, they're like, wait, you're using our thing to make games? And yeah, it's like, I appreciate it. So HackCore is definitely out there. What happens is, for those of you who've never made a mobile game, you have your internal testing, then it gets handed off to Google and Apple, and then they test it, and it can take a few months. So it's mostly done. It's not a complete game, but at least we're partly there. So part of what's happening here, one of the reasons why I wanted to do the talk is I'm trying to get this out there. Everything's free. You can pay if you want the fancier version of the analog cards, but you don't have to. It's all posted. Oh yeah, I want to make sure I thank everybody. There have been a lot of organizations involved in this. We've been up and down the chain trying to pull together all the funding for this. So what we did, the bit.ly link goes to my Google Doc, which has pages and pages of stuff. I think it's actually a little easier to just go directly off of GitHub, and I'll show you what it looks like. We've got Sector Down, which is the LAN party version, and you might have to fiddle with it because of firewall issues. The irony is you need to think about security to run a game about security, which we had not anticipated. What's done is done. And we've tried to work out some troubleshooting tips. And it takes, because it's multiplayer, this is not a one-player game. You do need a few people to sit down and try to figure it out. Access denied is, I think, a little bit more direct. Player versus player, PvP. And we have the physical version. And from the GitHub site also, you can just print things. You need dice. In fact, I had dice back in my office. And blast it, I should have brought the dice with me. So some of these might be missing dice, and I apologize for that. So you can use an online dice roller. And yeah, there is a version you can physically buy. It's not expensive, I think, but you're not obligated to. The Army made it very clear they wanted everything to be free, public and open source. So you could actually go ahead and take all the GitHub pages and fork it all and create your own version of this stuff. It does mean the stuff is wired into the Unity game engine, and that's one of the questions we've had as well. Maybe a future version. If I say Godot, I mentioned that once before. How many people know about Godot? Godot really came to light when Unity had a bit of a meltdown in the industry. If you're looking for something that's full stack open source, Godot. And it probably is the version, we should probably convert the whole thing over to that. So this way, we just have control of everything in there. I think it might make it a little easier forking it off of GitHub, because right now you basically have Unity as your rendering engine. So that's in there. You get a chance to download and play with all this stuff. Hackcore itself is on GitHub. It is possible if you want to make your own mobile game, you can go from there. So my hope is that some people, I'd like to think I've been utterly inspiring all the conferences I've been to. I'm hoping, when I was at DEF CON, 16 hours of talking about Jack Voltaic and Hackcore, and I'm hoping enough people out there are playing the stuff, fiddling with it. It's possible that someone else sees this and says, you know what, I'm going to take it and run with it, which is actually what the Army wanted to do. They thought one of the ways we could make the country and actually the world more resilient is give this stuff away for free. Just get people inspired to do this. Maybe this does become the training that organizations use and so forth. Or maybe this is something, in the end, we can get a sort of cyber health going because people are inspired to play the games. A lot more research needs to be done. We're going to be publishing this through the Cyber Defense Review. And the Army Cyber Institute intends to take the collection of articles and send it to everyone in Congress, governors, states. They are going to be printing this and distributing it all over the place. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of this. Yeah, that's it, actually. Done a little bit early, which means time for questions. And I think the first 4 people with questions get the card game. Are they supposed to use the mic or just shout really loud?
They could use a microphone or shout.
So the first 4 people to ask a question, make sure you come up here and you get your free access denied. I think I saw a hand up there.
So my question is, with a lot of Gen Z young people liking the gamification,
And
not entering the workforce, but we're also seeing, at least my organization, a lot of tenure of older employees who very much don't. They don't want to see this as a game. How do you recommend bridging that gap of the newer employees of Gen Z and Gen Alpha who love this gamification, but also getting buy-in from the higher ups to say, is it just a game? Is it actually generating value?
oh yeah, so the question is, Gen Z would totally get this games, especially with the card games. The older generation might be, wait, this isn't a game. In fact, one of the things that the flaw in serious games and gamification overall, I've been doing this for about 25 years. Some people don't like games. That like forget security, they just don't like games. What we found, it's anecdotal. When do anecdotes become evidence? When we've shown the physical card game and said, don't worry about the computer, the older folks said, oh, hey, this is cool. Oh, this is like something I've seen before. It turned out when I talked to the Rochester CIO, he said, oh yeah, my employees during lunch break play card games. And we think maybe enough people will like it. So even if the ones don't like it, that's okay, and say you're not forced to do this. But they might see some of the physical card players go like, well, what are you doing? Like, no, you don't do that. In fact, the game is actually flawed. There's some stuff in there that it's contradictory. And when I was at DEF CON, watching people work through this, like, oh, I get the point. Don't fix the errors in the game, because people were arguing whether or not something was phishing or not phishing. Something was, is this exfiltration or not exfiltration? And then people just started getting really engaged. So we think the physical card game is where it's at. And yeah, it's not a perfect answer, but that was why our team essentially got into arguments. We said, let's see what happens to the physical thing. All right, you get a game. Who's the second hand? I'm not doing a good job tracking it. One of you two? Okay.
How long did it take you guys to actually do the computer game versus the card game? And if you guys considered giving those resources out to like little gaming communities that are like local shops all throughout like Rochester, Syracuse, who thought like giving this info out to them so they can, divulge it to people who are going to spread those games out to them.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I just saw, it's called Rock Game Dev. I just saw them 2 Saturdays ago, and like, oh yeah, I should have just given them. I'm like the world's worst game director. I mean, I'm a department director of a world-class game program. I think what happens is I just get my time just gets so split. So yeah, actually, it's a phenomenal idea. I was at Serious Play, I talked about it, but yeah, I think I just need to get in front of more people, which was why I said, look, I need to drop everything I'm doing and do this conference to get this out there. Because I'm thinking I'm more likely to get someone local to mess around with this, because they say, all right, Dave, you could actually just drive and come see us. But Rock Game Dev, yeah, absolutely, it's a great idea. Oh, you get the game.
How long did it take you to make these?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, it's been 2 years. And I think those of you who've done a master's thesis or whatnot, master's PhD, I think we spend more time arguing and trying to figure out what are we doing. By the time we got to like, oh, we need to make that, now that ends up being a year. And now we're at the point like, oh man, we just did not leave enough time for testing, bug testing, typical academics. Who was number 3? Okay.
I've got like 3 things. Number 1 is, what about you putting it on tabletop simulator?
We thought about that. It could be.
For playtesters, you've got crash test games right at the Magic Center Monday nights, every week. And if there aren't student projects to go on, there's other people who can play test.
We actually tried throwing it a crash test. They haven't played it yet. In fact, the guy who runs crash tests is my employee. It's Sean Boyle. Like, Sean, just play the blasted game.
There every week. And the other one is that there's a yearly Rochester British Field now for tabletop game designers to play test.
Oh, we have a Rochester Kriegspiel? Oh, perfect. Okay. I know what Kriegspiel is, by the way. Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll trade. Okay. Let me grab someone from the back.
Say, Dave, I see 2 more. Why don't we take 2 more questions?
Okay.
Over there, maybe the guy in the blue.
Okay.
And then I think we force it right there.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Who's the guy in blue?
I think the one in the back, you said, see him?
Oh, back there. Yeah, a lot of people have said that. But by the way, the game industry has had its own collapse, so interpret that as you will. Yeah. Yeah, actually, it's like, how do I keep people engaged? In fact, I had some students get very mad at me about 3 weeks ago where I said, oh, great, another platformer. And they're like, how dare I question the nature of the game industry? And I'm at the point where it's another talk. I actually call it engineeringification. Like you have gamification, using game tools to build experiences for the real world. And what I'm thinking is that I don't think we've gone far enough. We're thinking about entertainment when we could be doing and things that aren't necessarily even entertaining, engaging. Like, can I use these tools to design, an HVAC system? And my hope is someone like you could look at this and go, I've played enough games. You know what? These cards suck. I can do better cards. And actually come up with your own experience. In fact, part of what I would love to do is run little game jams for security specialists that would take the card game engine, not the game that we've done, but the engine, and go ahead and make their own games, which are for their organizations. But I'm not convinced the engine we've made is as customizable as it could be, that's a good thing, though, for an academic project. That means that if there's more there, then it's like, oh, we stumbled on something which has a demand, which is what happened at DEF CON. A lot of people had said, wait, I need this, but I need it in a different form. But they're not necessarily Unity programmers, which is like,
Take that, how about that guy? Hasn't had.
Okay, which guy?
Shirt.
Oh.
For our last question, and then maybe you can, if you want to stay after.
okay. Not yet, which is why I'm like desperate. We put so much effort into trying to make the thing that, yes, we have been desperate for someone to try putting this in front. We think the number one thing I did get asked at DEF CON was, how do I get this in front of my C-suite to get them to realize this is important? We have been desperate to get people, and that's why the whole thing is free. It's just put it out there and like hope that someone can get it in front of somebody just to say and give feedback. Did we nail it? And it's possible we didn't, but that's okay because we would learn, oh, here's how we should have made the game. So yeah, please grab. All right, yeah, we should call it here.
Yeah, because we
All
have
right,
lunch coming
yeah,
up,
all right,
so
thank
why
you,
don't
thank
stick
you.
around. All right, to Dave Schwartz. Thank you, Dave.